hitting audio cues over here. We're trying to, anyways. Me and John over here running the ship. That's music is another episode of the Rec Poker podcast. And as I said, I'm not Jim Reed tonight. It's me, Ben Enslow. I'm a member of the wrecking crew over here on Rec Poker, and they let me host tonight. Let's go. Happy to be here. I'm BJamin96 on Twitch and East Coast Bitter in the home game. We got to thank our sponsors, the Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. They've been a sponsor of ours for a long time. They help keep the lights on around here, so we definitely got to thank them. And yeah, so I mean, we couldn't do it without the Wrecking Crew. Like I say, I'm a part of the group over there. And like I mentioned, me and John holding down the fort here tonight. How are we, John?
Doing all right. Had to get my unmutes going there.
There we go, yeah.
John Somsky, also known as Poker Geek and Men Everywhere.
So we don't have a guest tonight, but we are going to paste in an episode of Rec Poker's Empowerment Group that's run by Kim Kilroy. Something that you can get involved in if you're a member over here. Lara is a professional skydiver, and she talks a little bit about her world record skydive and some other cool stuff. I won't ruin the interview. I'll let you guys listen to it. We'll catch you guys on the other side. We're going to paste it in. And then for everyone who's listening live, we'll get into some home game results after that. And yeah, it'll be a short little episode for everybody who's live on YouTube. We're live here every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern time, the only time zone that matters. So we'll jump into that interview and we'll see you guys here in a few.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited to have the 2021 WSOP Ladies Champion here with me today, Lara Eisenberg. Welcome, Lara.
Thank you so much.
Let me tell you a bit about Lara. She's she's a radiologist. She lives in Maryland with her wife of 4 years. She was a billiards competitor in college, started skydiving in 1993, and was both recreational and competitive for quite some time until about 4 years ago. She started her gaming career in PC gaming and started playing poker in the moneymaker era, like quite a few of us did, I think. She started out online and also playing some charity tournaments and some quick trips to Atlantic City, I think. Yeah. And she studies with Jonathan Van Fleet, who's also known as Ape Styles online. And her first big score, I checked her out on Head and Mob, pretty impressive, over 350K. And her first big score was in 2014 at the Golden Nugget for 34,000. She won a circuit ring event in 2019, and then she won her bracelet last October, which was super exciting. In the ladies event. So anything I left out there? Anything you want to fill in for me? I mean, that's a pretty exciting past you have. You look for the excitement in life, I think.
Yeah, I like to compete. I like to have a competitive thing to do. And so it's just kind of evolved what that is over time. So, but poker you can certainly do all the way, hopefully forever. As long
right. So let's talk about your skydiving, because that's super interesting. And sure. If you, and I think you know one of our wrecking crew members, Eric.
I do.
Our Eric Binkley. I wanted to ask you, that's not his last name, is it? Is that his last name?
It's not his real last name.
No.
Mm-hmm. We know, but Eric was amazing. Yeah, he was one of the best in the world.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you about the women in skydiving. Like, how does it compare, the ratio of women to men in skydiving? Is it similar to poker, or is there?
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, all the three things that I've competed in the most, billiards in college, then skydiving, and then poker. I mean, it's probably progressively fewer women in each, I would say. Like pool, it's like hard to know. Like, do you count it? Like if you're like, I played on pool leagues and stuff like that, like around town in Milwaukee and things. I was actually the first woman on a men's pool league. Sorry about that. I was the first woman on a men's pool league in Milwaukee, actually. So that was a thing, which was received with mixed reviews at the time by some of our opposing teams. But and then in skydiving, it's when I was first in it, it was something like maybe 15% of skydivers were women. I think it's probably still similar, although I think it's going up a bit with time. And then, poker, as you know, I mean, if just going to the regular casino, there's a lot more women. But I mean, at the WSOP, I mean, especially like in the main event, it's like 2%. I mean, it's just so low. And certain events, it seems, certain events, like when I played in the Six Max, when you get into some of like the higher buy-in events in particular, there's just like no women. Like I probably saw 3 women in the Six Max event when I played it a couple of years ago. There's just not there,
Well, I noticed when I started out in the bar leagues, it was almost half women. There was a lot of women in the bar leagues playing. So women are definitely interested in poker.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what can we do to get them to the next level to feel competitive in the game? Like to feel that they can go out and compete. Like, what do you think the main stumbling blocks are against having more women in the game?
I think that there are some things that are going to be very difficult to overcome, and I think one being just the time commitment involved in being a tournament player. I think if you go to a casino and you look at who's playing cash, like if I go to Maryland Live, there's definitely more women probably, although we have quite a few tournament players at Maryland Live, but to be able to go and play cash for a few hours, like to have that much free time, if you're, I'm not a mom, but I can only imagine, like if you have responsibilities with kids, and it still tends to be that falls much more to the woman,
Right.
Even as enlightened as we all are in,
Right.
This day and age, still more often for a woman to be able to go and say, yeah, I'm going and playing a 4-day, WPT event. Like, are you arranging childcare? Are you doing all these other things? It's a lot of ducks to get in a row.
That's true. I think that's probably is one of the things. What about getting the younger women more into poker? Like, and then older women like myself who are retired and my children are grown up. So, I'd like to do something to sort of encourage those women.
Totally. And I think those demographics, like the young women that don't have as many commitments, and then women especially whose kids are out of the house, who have more free time and probably more free money. Because I think that's the thing with the younger folks is, to go and drop $1,500 on an event when you're 20. Like I couldn't have done it.
But we see the young guys doing it all the time.
Yeah, and if whether it's a matter of people playing online or just being better about getting back. But like I know for me, part of the thing was like I hadn't encountered poker. Like it isn't like it partly dates back to like when you're a teenager. Like I've never been a teenage male, but it seems that guys get together and to hang out and they're drinking and maybe they're playing cards or doing whatever. Like that's not a thing with women that I was hanging out with anyway. We didn't get together and like play, nobody played poker. I literally had never played a hand of poker ever when I decided to start playing poker. I was a PC gamer and watching the news and a commercial came on for like Poker Stars. And I said, you're shitting me. People can play poker for money on the internet. How is that even allowed? Like, how is that a thing? And I was like, I'm not going to sit here playing first person shooter games in my basement when I can play cards for money, play a game for money. So I picked up books and started reading and learning how to do it. But it wasn't something that, I wasn't encountered it. I hadn't, it wasn't part of my genre at all, and I think that just like pool, women aren't as exposed to it. And so you just don't get, like, you don't find the gems in pool because there's just not as many women playing it.
Right.
So it's almost like you need to, it's like, we can't even say it, but like encouraging teenage women to play poker. That's probably not what people are wanting, parents are wanting to hear, but that's, that would be ideal.
That would be ideal. Yeah.
Just to have it be a social game for
it has to be
younger
cool
girls.
For women as well as cool for guys, right? So.
Yeah. And cachet is exactly that. There's a lot of this, I don't go to a WPT event and, there's the scantily clad, WPT ladies that are there with the prizes and stuff like that. There's not like the Chippendales men, they're waiting to give stuff out to the women. It's just that whole cachet of the baller guy with the shtick. So
I think that's fading out. I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fading out for sure. You've always competed right from the get-go against men, so you're probably fairly comfortable with it. Have you run into any instances in your poker career where you were uncomfortable, where men made you uncomfortable, or do you think may have targeted you as a woman?
I think I have been treated differently as a woman. Like, I don't get upset by people getting upset at me too much, but I have had people have very significant reactions at times, that I think they wouldn't have the same reaction if it were a man, which doesn't mean that they wouldn't have a bad reaction to men. It's just a different reaction to me. Like, I remember being in a tournament with a guy who started getting really upset that I was raising his big blind and, and like yelling at me, "Are you going to raise my big blind every time?" And I hadn't thought about him individually at all until that moment, except like, I think he was the big blind when I was the button probably. So it's like, probably, yeah. If it folds to me, I'm probably going to raise your big blind like every time, And he said, you next time you raise my big blind, I'm shoving all in. And we were 50 big blinds deep. And he said, and I will be shoving all in every time you raise my big blind going forward. And he did. He actually did. So, I like raised, folded like 3 times, and then like called him off with ace 10 offsuit or something and like lost a flip. But, that level of just like, I am not going to sit here and be pushed around. Like, I think if a guy was raising his big blind, he might be pissed. He might make a snide comment, but would he go that far? Maybe, I don't know. But you see people go bananas.
He would
guys go
expect
bananas
it
towards
from
each
a
other in
man.
different ways.
You would expect it from a man to raise his big blind.
Yeah, sometimes people are perceived differently. But I find that more often, I think guys who are reasonable, I think, look at women who are playing poker as potentially probably not as aggressive. I think the baseline assumption, a woman sits down at the table, you're a guy, it's an unknown woman, probably not as aggressive. Like, that would be my baseline assumption. She may not be as aggressive. Is she as comfortable? But that she may, in fact, be slightly more competent than average because she's willing to sit down at a WSOP event, and she seems to be okay with it, that she may be more comfortable than the average person. Who knows?
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I mean, I vastly prefer somebody to underestimate me at the table for sure. Like, I love coming in and having somebody think that I'm going to be people assume you're going to be tighter on average as well, which is great, and if they don't know you at all, you get away with bluffs like in the beginning for sure, especially if you've been a little bit card dead, then you can just bluff away and people just absolutely fold.
Right.
So, but that's
tell us a little bit about the bracelet win from start to finish. How did your tournament go?
Sure. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Yeah, day one just was sort of, I felt pretty just relaxed, like it was the vibe with the women was so great, and that was different to me. It's like people were trying hard and playing well, and like we were focused, but it wasn't like people, were like out for blood and had the hoodie on and the glasses and wanted to stuff it down your throat. It just felt like a more relaxed, fun environment. And I enjoyed that a lot. And so it felt like just a relaxed, fun, day. And I knew for myself also, I played the Millionaire Maker already. This was the next. And if I busted the ladies, I think there was one more like double stack or something I was going to be able to play in the week. So it wasn't like, oh, this was going to be the last tournament either, which was good. And, the day just kind of rolled along up and down and won a few, pots and just kind of, it was sort of it wasn't like it was one of those days where you actually sort of steadily build, more or less.
Right.
And so that was good.
It wasn't any huge flipping or anything like that. Just a steady.
Yeah. No, and I felt I had a pretty good table. And so that, felt fine. And then I think it was that day, like I went to dinner with a friend and we like went to this Indian joint off off strip and ended up like being late coming back, and you're like parking in the back of the Rio and we're like running in and stuff like that. And we missed like the first hand or two coming back from dinner break, which worked out great for my friend because she sat down and having missed a couple hands and sat down to aces and got her whole stack in and doubled up like right away. So who knows what would have happened with her first couple hands? Maybe she would have lost some chips. So that worked out good. And then day 2 was like I think I got short at one point. Yeah, just kind of a blur. But ended up going out to dinner with Ape Styles and Jamie and some other folks that night, which was fun. And then day 3 was super short because we came back and we had, I don't know how many we had, like 27, and we were playing down to 5. And we met up at like noon or 1, and we were like done by 5:30 and going to dinner. Like it just happened like really fast, So it was like, I think the bubble had burst already for sure at that point. Yeah, because we were like 27 or 30 left or something like that. And I didn't even know the thing was going to be streamed until, we got down to the final table at 10, and then it's like, oh, we're playing down to 5. And then people were like, yeah, it's going to be it's going to be streamed tomorrow. I was like, really? And it was like, geez, okay, better, tell your friends. And so, but that's, then, I'd been playing with some of obviously the same people that I was going to be playing with the next day. And so, had a decent idea of their game by that point. But I had a couple of friends from BBZ that one guy ran ICM sims overnight for me. And we sat in the morning for 90 minutes going over just all these different scenarios and, what you should be doing in ICM and these different spots with the stacks as they are to start with, at least. And just kind of talking over spots in general. And then my other friend from BBZ, Pat, who's been my friend forever, we just kind of did like you would in football, like kind of go through, the game plan of like your first 5 plays as you're seeing them, And so it's like kind of the first orbit of the table. What are you going to do if, you get shoved on after you do this, that, and the other thing? We talked about these things. And it was kind of fun because like one of the first things that we talked about was, these short stack reshove situations. And that's why it was a really interesting hand that came up very first hand when we sat down. We like got your mic on and you got all this stuff, and I hadn't been in a televised table situation. And it folds to me, and there's only 5 of us, and I'm on the button with pocket 8s, and so I make a 2.1 or 2.2 raise or something like that. And JJ Lou, who's in the small blind, we both have 24 bigs, and the biggest stack is the big blind. So number one, I'm not opening super light into the big stack, obviously. And she 3-bets me to like less than 3x my raise and does it very quickly. And it was really those 2 things there were really alerting: the speed of her 3-bet and then the size of her 3-bet, and the big stack folded. And it's just like, first hand of a final table, like, does she like less than 3x 3-bet me with a pair worse than 8s? Does she do that with ace king? No. Ace queen? No. She shoves it all in. I'm like, I don't think I can possibly beat anything. And I'm sitting, and as I was thinking, she started flipping a chip, just like really casually, like flipping this chip very relaxed while she was staring at me. I was like, I just folded. And just comfortable with it, like whatever she had. I mean, if it turned out she had ace king and playing it weird, whatever. And she had aces first hand. And
good read. Good read.
Yeah, and you don't know, like, you don't get any feedback until you go on your first break. And so like an hour afterwards, you find out that like, oh yeah, the big stack's raising like every hand. And she's had ace queen, ace king, pocket 10s, and you're like, okay, good to know.
All right. Yeah. But it's like most of us don't get into that spot very often, right? Those final table spots where the big ICM jumps. So we don't have a lot of practice. So it's awesome that you have a group that came together for you to help you sort of
it was so nice.
Run through it and prepare for it, right?
Yeah, and that's a lot of what we do, the work that we do in BBZ, every week, a lot of it's centered around ICM stuff, because that's, as you're saying, nobody is just playing hundreds and hundreds of final tables, but it's like all of a sudden you're in this situation where this is where it really matters, this is where making mistakes, in ICM are enormous mistakes, that can be for huge money,
Right.
and so that's where it's like you really do need, and that's where the edges are too, because people just make huge spewy mistakes in the money.
Yeah.
And I mean, my friend who won the Millionaire Maker back in 2019, he was like this short stack coming to the final table, and people just basically got swords out and just like stabbed themselves in the chest in front of him while he just sat there and watched it happen, and just
Picked
watched
his
people
spots.
implode around him.
Yeah.
He just sat there, and like people like the second biggest stack just like got his whole stack in like against this guy and lost, and like these totally unnecessary spots, and you're just like, wow, just crazy stuff.
Yeah. So as intense as all of that is, it's also so much fun and such a high to be at that final
Oh my
table
God.
and it'd be the whole televised thing and everything. So big, huge congrats for that.
Oh, thanks.
I'm sure we'd all like to be there someday in your shoes.
It was really lucky. Yeah.
I am going to open this up right now to my other guests here to see if anybody has any questions for you.
Sure.
Okay.
I do. Hi, I'm
Hey.
Elizabeth, and I'm from Toronto, a friend of Kim Stewart's
Good to
and
see
Jim
you.
all on here. Nice to meet you.
You too.
And to read about you. But in talking about the ICM, I'm just wondering for women who, find themselves at a final table, whether it be a small or a big event, is there any general tips that you can provide to our female players out there and players in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistakes that you see are people don't realize like how tight you need to open. It's radically different. And also people like follow push fold charts. And when you're in ICM, that stuff is completely wrong. Like you shouldn't be looking at a push fold chart, period. And ICM starts way sooner than people think it does. There's charts that kind of really look at when ICM begins to build, and it's when half the field's gone, even sooner. And so it's like nobody really wants to look at it because it's just depressing, like how much you have to just like tighten up, and it's like not fun, to play that way. But, there's a lot of times where, like somebody in my shoes opening the button in those situations with 24 big blinds, if in chip EV, I should be opening 50% or 55% even, and what I have to be opening there is like 25%. Or maybe 30%. And so, you just have to be much, much tighter. And then also realizing that one of the big things that happens in ICM is if you're the big stack, it's fine to get into post-flop situations because you have this big advantage and you get to put all kinds of pressure on people if there's enough of a stack difference between you. But, if you aren't, you really kind of want to avoid getting into a post-flop situation for the most part, especially with a big stack, because there's just all of these awful situations that can then come up. So you're just much more likely to 3-bet, or get all in pre-flop in certain situations to avoid the post-flop game tree and spots. So it's hard to like make that as a general statement, because there's obviously many different exceptions to how that comes up. But, I think those are big things, but also just realizing that unlike in chip EV, when you fold, it's not zero EV to you. It's plus EV, significantly plus EV to let people collide, and you have to be very, very patient, and you're getting paid to sit there and just to remember that, and so, mistakes that I've made is feeling like, oof, like I've got 24 big blinds. I'm looking for a spot to get it all in. It's like, you don't need to be looking for a spot to get it all in. If the appropriate spot presents itself, fine, get all in. But you can play poker with very, short amounts of chips. You shouldn't just bleed out and like not play any hands at all and just like blind out of the tournament. But, you can be, carefully still opening hands and playing a little bit post flop and trying to carefully build your stack and being patient. So, those are kind of just generalities, but there's a lot of stuff that's out there, and you don't have to, be on a site with, as much high level content like a BBZ site. There's lots of different sites that have good ICM fundamentals to learn from as well.
Where are you playing poker these days?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Where are you playing poker these days?
So I play mainly on ACR.
Okay. Yeah. So online.
Yeah. And so, I haven't been since the World Series. I haven't played live at all because like Omicron came up and that was it. So there's times they are playing, and our casino is running lots of tournament series, and they're very attended. It's just not by me. I'm boosted and vaccinated and everything like that, but this is going to die down soon, and I'm hoping to get back to live poker, maybe in March, April timeframe, and I'll definitely be out for the World Series in the summer for sure. Unless there's another next pandemic, God forbid.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I mean, I think online is great. I think, bots and things like that, and, other things that are threatening of the integrity of the game are issues, but large live field tournaments, I mean, there's just so much just complete nuttery going on that that it's not like everybody's sitting there with a bot, because they wouldn't be playing as they are. So, and I think of online as a home gym, I want to be able to get the reps in and build the skills, but I much prefer live poker.
Right. And how much of your time is spent in playing versus studying?
I study probably 12 hours a week, I would say, on average. And so I'm playing on the weeks that I work every other week. And the weeks that I'm off, if I'm not on vacation, I try in general to play 2 days a week. So they're long days. Then when I play, they're probably 12-hour days. So it's, I guess, an average. It's probably a 50-50 mix, but probably a little more study than play.
Right. And any aspirations to go pro on poker?
Well, I have been declaring myself a professional last year, but that doesn't mean I'm quitting my day job. But I am filing as a professional and declaring myself as a professional. So for the time put in, I'm actually putting in about an equal amount of time into poker and my regular job. So it's legit.
Oh, excellent. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats
Thanks.
on that. Yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
Hi, Lara. I'm Stuart from middle of nowhere in Ontario.
Nice.
My question is, what was more exciting or more nerve-wracking, making the final table in WSOP or the big skydiving jump you did over Thailand in 2006?
Ooh. Probably the skydiving.
Yeah, I've done it once.
Yeah. Winning the bracelet is amazing, and it was just I feel very proud of both accomplishments, but there's just a lot of kind of chaos and stuff that goes on, like in the 400-way skydive.
Mm-hmm.
Like the most dangerous part of it is exiting a C-130 with 80 people, because you've got 4 rows of people, and the plane can only slow down so much, so it's still going like 150, 160 miles an hour, and you're going out the back in rows of 4 and then hitting this jet stream of stuff, and there's just like kind of a chaos of bodies everywhere. One guy got like a shoulder fracture dislocation, another guy broke a pelvis. It's just like there's a lot that can go on outside of just like the excitement of breaking a world record. So yeah, I was always leaving the back of the plane like balled up with my hands in front of my face like that until I got clear of people, and then diving down at the thing. So
and did you have to all get together and hold hands halfway down, or?
Yeah, there's a video of it if you search for World Team Skydive Thailand. It was in Udon Thani. But so we had 5 C-130s information, so 80 skydivers per plane plus video guys. Obviously, there were a whole bunch of video guys, and so it was a 3-week event. So there's all this time spent practicing getting the central 100 people together reliably before you start putting in all the people on the outsides. And then we did, I think it was the 13th try that we did it. So you just have these rows of people all coming off. You have 100 people in the center, and then these kind of weed whacker rows of people coming off of the thing. So we put stripes on the back of our helmet so you knew which row everybody was in, so you didn't accidentally get cut in front of somebody who's in row 2 while you're in row 3 and that kind of stuff. And then it's so big. It's actually the largest object that's ever been over the Earth, because it was so wide by the time the whole thing was built. So I'm told. That excludes alien ships. But We had to break the thing off at like 7,500 feet or 8,000 feet, which is really high. And then we would, like, I was leading a group of people that we would fly like, like birds, like in a V. So you just have people all going, because you don't want people just flying every which way. So you have people like leading people going in a certain direction and then spreading out far away. So we were like tracking, I'm going like horizontally, like 60 miles an hour horizontally flying. And my group was always going right over the town of Udantani, which is a town of like 100,000 people. So I'm like going over like hospitals and hotels. People are like sunning themselves by the pool and all this stuff. And then we were like opening at like 2,000 feet. And then you're suddenly having to try to find a place to land in the middle of the city. And it was different every time, that was kind of crazy. So like oftentimes we were landing like in the backyard of a school, and like one time I landed in a driving range, and so it was crazy, but there's a lot of adrenaline.
Yeah, so the final table was a breeze then.
The final table wasn't so nerve-wracking, but
Right.
it's funny. Like I've been pretty nervous in certain events in poker before, but I felt oddly calm with the women's event because my next big goal had just been to make the final table of a major tournament. And it really hadn't been like, win a bracelet or that kind of thing, because it's so hard. Like you can't set your sights on something like that because it's going to be so random that it either happens or doesn't. That's just kind of a goofy goal to have. It's like a neat thing to wish for, but you can't make it a goal because it's just there's too many random variables. So I really felt like going into it, like, I can't lose. Like I've already done what I wanted to do, which was just to be here. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to, I've never, who knows, I may never be at another stream table for all I know. Like I'm going to enjoy every frickin' minute of this thing. And my main thing was I just didn't want to look really stupid, so I didn't want to do something like just like abominably stupid, at least in the first 30 minutes. And I figured at least if I got that far, I'd be like, all right. So
what's on your poker bucket list now?
It's really kind of more of the same. It's funny. I've never cashed the main event, and I've played like I think 4 or 5 main events now, and I've made day 3, like late day 3, a couple of times, but I just haven't cashed it. So that's that would be nice. But I'd like to final table another major. Tournament of some kind.
What about travel? Do you want to travel to play at all?
I mean, I'm not going to probably like make a point to like go to Barcelona just for a EPT kind of thing. It'd be fun, but I liked being in Barcelona just to be in Barcelona anyway. But to do something like that would be really fun. I mean, I went and played the circuit event in New Orleans. And that was just a ball to be somewhere great because, Vegas is nice, but when I busted out of a tournament in that circuit event, I was stoked, because like, I'm going to go get great food. I'm going to go like walk around and like check out the city. And you're just like, I liked that about it. So I got to get down to Florida too, where you are. So my friend is down there and it sounds like those tournaments are crazy and great.
Yeah, we just played 2 circuit events. We went to Calgary, and then we went Elizabeth and I are down here in Florida. And it's quite different, the Canadian WSOP C-Stop to the American in Florida one. It's a completely different vibe and a different style of play, and it was really interesting.
I imagine the Canadians are just better on average, I would assume, from playing online. What, right? I mean,
there's less wildness, like,
right.
Not as much nuttiness.
Less limping too. So
it's probably just more generally good play, I would, if I had to guess. But what about like the Niagara Falls place? Isn't that supposed to be like an amazing WPT stop? I've kind of wanted to do.
Elizabeth doesn't like it. I like it because I've done well there. But it's difficult to play the satellites. They don't run it very well for that. It's fine if you're just buying into the events. Plus, there's only 3 events. There's a 1K, a 2,500, and then a 5K. So it's not like there's a big series for
all kinds of things to do.
If you come to Canada, you have to go to Playground.
That's what I've heard.
In Montreal.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that would be fun. Maybe
when it comes back there, maybe WPT will come back there because because they used to come regularly.
That'd be great.
Poker road trip, just saying.
Yeah. Did you have anything you'd like to ask Lara, Jim?
I got all my good questions in on the podcast. This is all this follow-up.
I see.
I mean, I'm always curious to know, like what you have a kind of a unique place in the poker world now. You've got some notoriety. You're equal parts insider and outsider, I think, like the way you've described it as well. I think that's very fair. What in the general sense, like what does, this is something I ask many of our guests on the podcast, like what does the poker world need to do better? What does the poker community need to do better that we're not doing right now? How can we make the poker world a better place? Whatever that means to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I think like my instant answer would be like have less rake, right? I mean, or make the buy-ins less, whatever. But that's not, that kind of stuff's not practical. But I think as far as it would be nice to see, I do feel like women are a really untapped market, and like what we all want is there to be bigger pools, bigger prize pools, which means more people playing the game. So I think it would be great to think of ways to get women more interested and more involved, and it sounds like, having things like you're doing here, where people can talk and hear about ways that people are involved and ways that they can be involved and see, whether coaches and role models and folks like that to kind of, set their sights on. I think that that's helpful, because it seems like, the male market is probably relatively well developed, as far as guys that are going to get into it. The more people see on TV and the more excitement it generates, the better. But I do think that what attracts men to poker is going to be different than what attracts women to poker too, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't develop both. Like there can still be like the blingy baller side that attracts, like a young guy, like that's okay. It doesn't mean that has to be bad. It just means that there also needs to be a side of it that is attractive to women, too. And, but I think that's the main thing. I don't feel like I've been treated poorly, in general in the game, like guys running floors and stuff like that have been super nice, to me, and most players have been very nice to me. Even guys that kind of have a reputation for not always being the nicest have been pretty nice to me, and so whatever that's, whether that's just like not getting in their space and getting involved in it, I just don't take any of that stuff personally. I mean, I started out training in surgery, and you don't have any room to have a thin skin because you're just going to get eaten. But
that's good. We're all trying to figure out ways to get more women into the game, especially at the sort of like local level and to the sort of lower buy-ins, and come out and try some live poker and that kind of thing. So we're working on that, some of those initiatives. I think that's great now. So, but you're a great role model, and we need you or me or Elizabeth at the final table of the main event, I think.
That would be yeah, I mean, that would be such a dream,
Yes.
But I mean, just the variance you have to overcome to get to any final table is so huge, and there's just it's just never a completely smooth, thing. I mean, I was all in a couple times, before getting to the end. It wasn't like every other minute, but I sucked out a couple times. I had even when we got down to the final, I think it was at the final table of 10 that I got it all in with fours against ace king and held up. That flip goes the other way and don't have a story. I have a little cash story, just like happens almost all the time. So the ducks all have to line up.
I do have one question just based on that. Have you ever gone really deep in a tournament without laying a bad beat on someone or a suck out on someone? Because I never have. I've never gotten a long way through an MTT without getting lucky at one point in. I'm always curious to find out if I'm just a luck box or if that's the case for.
No, I mean, I'm sure just because of sheer volume of playing online, probably,
Right.
But I mean, I've had it both ways. I think that to me, what's really great about playing online, and that's why I think online is a great way for women to get involved as well, in that you can get reps in and you can do stuff without as much of a time commitment, and you can play sit and goes and do things like that. Like that's where I encourage people to, play. Like I'll play sit and goes, with MTT strategy, just to get reps and practice on those things. But putting in volume online you just get numb to the bad beats and the suck outs after a while, to the point, like I look back on times in my poker career that I'm not proud of my behavior, and, like where maybe I've busted out and somebody had like some down hand, and said like, no, nice hand or whatever, and like walked away because I was pissed, and like you look back at those times, you're like, it was not a nice thing to act that way, and I feel like a jerk, thinking back on the times when I've done that, but it also came from within myself of really not understanding the game and how it works, like you do things like you do in the beginning where you like you want to get your aces, you want to make sure you're going to get all the money in, and you like make some like teeny little raise with them, and you're 30 big blinds deep or whatever, and you just like constantly give somebody the right odds and they end up hitting two pair, and like you're pissed, and you're whatever, but like it's just like that's how poker works, and you don't realize it in the beginning. And I try to remember those times that I've done those things so that when somebody else acts that way, you recognize that they're coming from a place really of just not understanding how the game works, and there were times that I really thought people were doing stuff that was just stupid, and some of it was we didn't know how the game worked, as the game evolved, and like there was a lot of stuff that we used to think people were total donkeys, and it turns out like they may not have known they were doing it correctly when they were doing it, but they were like spot on, like we've seen that kind of come full circle now, where you're like, they're, limping here or there and stuff like that. And you're like, sometimes that can be, okay. Or, this guy min raised off 12 big blinds. You're like, yeah, that's the thing, and just all this stuff. It's like the donkeys have come full circle, and they were right all along, it turns out.
All right. So, well, we've probably kept you long enough here. Does anyone have any further questions for Lara? No?
Nope. I look forward to meeting you one day in person.
Oh, me too. Yeah. I've got to get up your guys' way.
Yeah.
For sure.
We'll be in Vegas for sure in the summertime. So
great. That'll be fun to meet up.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll keep in touch for that. So I'd like to thank you for coming on here.
Thank you for having me.
And being such a great role model for women as well, to do well and strive for the best in the game. So
absolutely. If I can help somebody and they want to hit me up, feel free.
All right. And where can people reach you?
I'm on Twitter at I think I'm at Eisen008 on Twitter, or maybe Eisen009. I have to look and see.
008, I remember.
008. Okay. And so that's probably
the best way.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Good night. Thanks. Nice meeting you guys. Nice meeting you, Elizabeth.
All right, we're back. That was a good one. I think that was probably one of our best ever. I mean, from just me and John. I mean, I think we're killing it right now.
Yeah, I think we've done everything perfectly. So let's keep it short, get it over with quickly to keep that stack alive.
Yeah, exactly. We got a chip and a chair right now, so we're not gonna ruin it. That's for sure. So we can't make fun of Jim anymore for doing it every single week. It's not as easy as it looks. That's for sure. Yeah. So like I say, that was a great interview. Definitely worth a listen. I'm excited to listen to it again. And Laura actually did my Marek Madness commentary, which I unfortunately lost. But yeah. So, John, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in Rec Poker home game land?
So this was our first week that we actually had fewer home games. So there will no longer be home games on Thursday evenings, Friday evenings, or Saturday evenings. And some of the other home games have switched around. So Wednesdays, the first 2 Wednesdays of the month, are going to be our championship series, and then the remaining Wednesdays of the month will be our mixed practice game series. So we're still having lots of home games for everyone, just not quite as many as we did before. So make sure you take that time, make use of it, and go join more of the Rec Poker study clubs, or just go out and have some fun, whatever the case may be. Go play some live poker. And now for the games. First we have Squidge 2222, also known as KKK8. Kate Ibbenson got her third nightly victory for the year. Woodworker 151 got his first nightly victory for the year, and that's also his or her first victory ever for the home game.
Nice. Congratulations. Love seeing the new members getting that first win on the board for sure. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. Then we have Spot Conlon. Daniel Kennedy got his third nightly victory for the year. And then on August 31st, the next day, Spot Conlon, Daniel Kennedy, got his fourth nightly victory for the year.
Ooh, that's some run good. Nice. Love seeing that.
Yeah, and he actually has a theory that, because then the next day was September 1st, which there was no home game, and he thinks that we did that purposefully just to cool him off. And no, that wasn't on purpose. That was just a lucky side effect. Next, we have Elvis76. Steve Krebs got his first daily mixed victory for the year.
Nice.
Jaden Jewell, Mary McCune got her second international victory for the year. K-Poker wannabe Ron Payton got his first international victory for the year. And then Izima got his or her second LPP event. So he or her can contact info@rec.poker for the free month at Learn Pro Poker.
Yeah, that's an awesome value right there. I mean, that Learn Pro Poker membership is definitely worth getting in on Sunday nights and battling for. So love seeing all those winners in the home game. And on Saturdays, I'll just throw in my own plug. Saturdays, if you're playing in the internationals, be sure to jump in. I'm always giving away a free month, whether it's in the morning or in the evenings. I've been playing the evening one a little bit more lately, but either way, I always try and give away a free month of Rec Poker Premium membership. If you can knock me out, it's pretty easy to do. Trust me, lots of people have done it. So it's really not that hard. So if you want to get a free month of Rec Poker just to check things out, jump in the free home games. There's value to be had there as well, and I appreciate the support in the stream as well. BJM and 96 on Twitch. So I don't know, John. Should we do a giveaway? I'm not sure if we have. Do we have a few people? If we want to, I should have said it earlier, but
I don't know. We've got according to the dashboard, we have 4 people viewing right now. No one has made any comments in chat. Because, I mean, we aren't as friendly as Jim is, so that makes sense.
People are a little bashful when, we've got 2 real killers on the stream, I guess. Or
But I have a feeling 2 of those are us, but there might be... No, Charles Allen is one. He said no, he hasn't typed food bank, though. That's what. See,
he could be an easy winner. I mean, one person dice roll. You know what's going to happen. We're going to roll a 1, so we need at least 2 people in there to avoid the 1 roll.
Yep.
But yeah, it's K-Poker wannabe. Hey, yep. We're getting a few K-Poker wannabe. Actually, we've battled quite a bit in the home games lately. We had 2 heads up battles, so that was super fun. I enjoyed playing with him.
Well, K-Poker Wannabe's been on a little bit of a run lately, and been
they have. Yeah. I've seen him in the circles, more final tables, more. I mean, I don't play as many home games as some other people like Evil Roy and stuff like that. So we just mentioned him because he's got the 60 wins. But hey, we're getting a couple more in there now, so we may as well do. Do you have a 6-sider or something there with you?
I do not, but I will go to random.org.
Hey, there we go.
And
this is like my stream. We just do stuff on the fly.
Integer generator. I want to generate 1 integer value between 1 and 3. The number I got was a 3.
Was a 3. That's Luke O in the chat. Right.
And so Luke can contact info@rec.poker to get a free premium month to rec.poker, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. And if they're already a premium member, I'm pretty sure we can put some stuff towards coaching. some other cool stuff that we have going on at Rec Poker. So definitely send that email along, and we'll get you squared away.
So Luco was just contemplating if the reduced number of home games will be negative or positive for the bankroll. And
oh, interesting.
that is kind of interesting because I find when there are so many, I definitely join and do not always play my best. There are nights where I'm just kind of firing and
right.
I might not be doing all that well. But so maybe having few will allow you to focus better. Although if it's kind of random on whether or not you'll be focused and not related to how many we have, then maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're a little bit later for me where I'm on Atlantic Standard Time, the only time zone that matters, the really only time zone that matters. So they're a little later for me. So I try and stick to the internationals. Those are kind of my bread and butter tournaments, if you were. So yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of like you say, it's interesting. I'm curious to see if we see, more new winners coming in, maybe where there's, less tournaments and there's, we got to, people have to really focus on those nights to make sure that they get in and stuff like that. So maybe we'll see some bigger field sizes too, which would be exciting. So I don't know. There's definitely upsides to it for sure. So awesome. Is there anything else, John, that you think we're missing or think we missed? I think we did all right, actually.
I think we're doing okay. Just remember, on September 16th, I believe, let me make...
Oh, Heads Up.
Is going to be the Heads Up event. So it is out there. There is no late registration because it's a shootout. So you have to be there on time to play it. And the winner of that will be automatically entered into Marek Madness next year.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I almost forgot about that. That was on my hit list as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'll be streaming that as well, and hopefully I don't lose to quads again like I seem to lose to every single time I play. Yeah, great. I appreciate everybody in the chat for hanging out. It was good to see everybody. I'll just make a quick check here. Make sure there was no other questions or anything. Appreciate everyone there. We're live, like I say, 7:30 Eastern time. We'll be back again tomorrow. I'm saying it's a stream. We'll be back again next Monday, and we'll catch you guys then. Thanks to our sponsors, the Running Aces Racetrack and Casino, and yeah, all you guys in the chat, the Wrecking Crew. See you guys later.